A Plaguelands Media production.
Hey everyone, this is Hugh from Plaguelands Media bringing you an RPG review today. We are not going to be reviewing the Dungeons & Dragons Player's Handbook. I do have it there for a reason. Now, what we are going to be reviewing is a Kickstarter that I received on Thursday. So, why do I have the Dungeons & Dragons Player's Handbook out? It's because of a rule in the handbook that, quite frankly, I didn't know existed. If we go to page 186, and the section here on resting. Now, those of you that are familiar with 5th edition will know that there is short rests where the players take like an hour to kind of catch their breath and whatnot. And then there's long rests, which is at least 8 hours of downtime. At the end of a long rest, it says characters regain all lost hit points. Okay, fair enough. You've had a hard day of adventuring, and you just want to kind of relax and heal back up again. But with a short rest, the character can spend 1 or more hit dice at the end of a short rest up to the character's maximum amount of hit dice. Now, hit dice is equal to your level. If you are level 1, you have 1 hit dice. And the hit dice is the dice you roll for your hit points. So, for example, a fighter will be a D10, a cleric will be a D8, so on and so forth. So, at the end of your short rest, you can spend 1 or more of your hit dice, roll them, and gain that many hit points back. Now, this is a fantastic rule in my opinion. It always bothered me that adventuring parties had to rely on the cleric or a paladin to constantly be healing them. So I think this is an absolutely fantastic rule that I didn't really know about, to be perfectly honest with you. But, and I apologize for the droning noise in the background. That's just the washing machine. Get over it. I have to, clean my delicates, of course. But Total Party Kill Games, I believe that's TPK Games, yep, came up with this idea of recovery dice. Now, recovery dice are your hit dice. They've just changed the name of it. There's nothing wrong with that. But they now give you different options on what to spend your hit dice on. For example, you can do an agile dodge. When you suffer a critical hit, you can expend a recovery die, which is the hit dice, subtract the amount rolled on the die from the damage. You can have some resurgence, spend a recovery die as an action to temporarily ignore a condition. Okay, swift healing. Then you've got racial options. For the dwarf, you can use it for iron fortitude, sheer willpower. For the elf, silent runner, uncanny aim, so on and so forth. Then you've got class-based options. The barbarian, the cleric. The druid can get dark vision when they use their wild shape if they expend a die. So these are just more options to spend those hit dice, or recovery dice as they're called here. And then you've got combat options for monsters to use them. So a monster's hit dice, they can expend them to do certain things as well. So this was a little book that they produced for 5th edition. Now, this came in my Kickstarter, but the main Kickstarter came with a few things. The main Kickstarter, first of all, came with this t-shirt, Total Party Kill. Awesome logo on the back. And their 2022 convention listings, Dominating the Disease, which was their celebration of getting over COVID, I assume. I also got 2 sets of dice. Got these beautiful looking dice here. And these ones, which You know, just look absolutely gorgeous. But this is what I want to talk to you about today. The Book of Monstrous Might, New Monsters, New Playable Races, and Unusual Tactics. So, cheers. Okay, so from the get-go, the book itself just looks amazing. We've got the gold leaf looking thing there. Great picture on the cover. And so we start with an introduction written by the son of Gary Gygax, the inventor of Dungeons and Dragons. Now, there's a short story, which is pretty cool. Some fantastic art. So, this book is basically more options to use hit dice. Not just for the players, but for the creatures as well. This makes the game, in my opinion, just better. There's more narrative styles that you can use. There's more options for the players. There's more options for the Dungeon Master. It's just an all-round solid companion book. So we have the general options, with combat options. These are all covered in the book I just showed you. Role-based options, depending on what role in the party you're playing. Bodyguard, Brute, Mastermind, Medic, Skirmisher, Solo. These can also be used by the monsters as well. So just keep that in mind. More legendary actions, lair actions, things like that, which legendary creatures have. But now we come to something that's really interesting. Monster abilities by type. So those of you that know the Dungeons & Dragons Monster Manual know that all monsters fall into some sort of a category. Now, with these categories, we have ways to use their recovery dice or hit dice. Now, it actually tells you to, if the players are coming up against a horde of creatures, like 15 kobolds, you don't have to manage the hit dice for all of them. Just kind of do it for the big bads and the solo creatures, the creatures that really stand out. So we have Aberration, Beast, Celestial, Construct, Dragon. It goes through, and like Dragon has, you know, dangerous ground. The creature must have a breath weapon. The dragon expends 3 hit dice as part of using his breath weapon. When it does, the breath weapon affects creatures in its area as normal. In addition, the terrain within the area effect becomes difficult terrain for 1 minute. So just ways to really heighten the tension when it comes to battle. Your players might go, oh, it's a red dragon. I know what it can do. No, you fucking don't. Not anymore. Fiend, giant humanoid monstrosities, ooze, plant, undead, which is really cool. Then we have some abilities for the core monsters. So these are the monsters that you can find in the Monster Manual and other kind of supplements. So the Aarakocra, which you know are the Birdmen, they can have a sudden leap. As a reaction to being threatened by another creature, the Aarakocra expends a hit dice and moves 10 feet away from its present location. Really fucking handy if your players are just steamrolling through an encounter. We have the Ankheg, classic. Banshee, Agonizing Whale. After the Banshee has used its whale ability for the day, as an action, it can spend a hit dice to emit Agonizing Whale, provided it isn't in sunlight. This whale does not affect constructs and undead. All other creatures within 30 feet of the Banshee that can hear take 3d6 psychic damage. Banshees suck at the best of times. That just makes them worse. Chimera. The Death Knight. Classic Lord Soth. Riposte, Shatter Shield, Unbreakable Will. So, you know, depending on the monster, you can use their hit dice. Dracolich. Oh, wow. I love Dracoliches in the Forgotten Realms. I believe the first appearance of a Dracolich in a novel was Ed Greenwood's novel Spellfire with Chandril Shashir. As a bonus action, Dracolich can spend a hit dice. All its melee weapon attacks are considered magical. Wow. Shadow Dragon, then all the dragon abilities. And these are separated by the dragon, if it's a chromatic or a metallic. So this has to be Bronze Dragon, Gold Dragon, Copper Dragon, things like that. Dryder. So you get all of these new abilities for the core monsters, which are just so, so cool. Winterwolf, Wraith. Do you remember Wraiths and Spectres in 2nd edition, where when they hit you, they would take an entire level off you? Fuck, that was annoying. Not just when you're playing on the tabletop, but in the old SSI video games, like Curse of the Azure Bond, Secret of the Silver Blades, Champions of Kryn, Death Knight of Kryn, Dark Queen of Kryn, things like that. Pool of Radiance, fuck, that pissed me off. That'd be, you know, reload your save state. Then different tactics for the different monster types. So Aberration Tactics, Beast Tactics, Celestial Tactics. These just basically help the Dungeon Master when it comes to planning a combat encounter. More specifically, planning the combat encounter that's going to be like the big finale of the adventure, I think, would be where these are best served. So we have those. Swarms. Things like that. Look at that. Beautiful. Now we have races. These are exactly what it is. You can play as these races now. Bloodlines. Kind of variants on the some of the racial settings. So Monstrous Bloodlines with Tiefling and Celestial Archaon. Okay, so Centaur. These are just kind of redone works, I should say, on pre-existing races. Some of them are, because the Centaur, I believe, you can play in 5th edition, was found in one of the Magic the Gathering source books. I think it was the Theros one. What they are like with other races, and then the ability score stats and their different abilities and the different variants. So we have Centaur, Umbral Elf, Elflings, Gargoyles. How cool is that you can play as a fucking gargoyle? Just like that Disney cartoon that was so awesome. Lava Gnome. There's a new variant. Gratal, which I have no idea what they're from, but they look amazing. They look like a vampire mind flayer. A half-dwarf. Initially, they had half-dwarves in Dark Sun, called the Mull, I believe. But because of... Well, you know what? I'm just going to come out and say it. Because of 2023 snowflake culture, they're never going to print Dark Sun as a 5th edition supplement. I wish they would, but because it deals with like slavery and things like that, you know, someone's going to be pissed off about it. Wizards of the Coast are going to crumble as usual. Sorry if that was controversial, but there you go. There's my take on it. Half Giant, freaking awesome. Half Giant traits. You can have a Fire Half Giant, Frost Half Giant, Stone Half Giant, Hill Half Giant. The Co-Earl, never heard of them, but they look like cat people. Magir look like kind of ghoulish creatures. A Roxy Minotaur. You can play as a Minotaur at the moment. I believe, again, that's in one of the Magic the Gathering supplements for 5th edition. Really cool. Mortis, so kind of undead. Ogre. Rakshasan. This is really interesting to me. I love this idea of the Rakshasa now as a playable character. They've always been evil in the lore of Dungeons and Dragons. Those of you that don't know, they're like tiger people. They've got 6 fingers on their hand, and their hands are backwards. It's a really cool. They're awesome to kind of go up against as a big bad. Charisma score increases by 2. They're lawful evil. They're fewer neutral evil. 6 to 7 feet tall. 30 feet walking speed. They have dark vision. They have disguise. They have fiendish resistance. They have claws. And they have a weakness to good. And there's a tiger version, a gorilla version, and a crocodile version. I mean, come on. This is just awesome. And now we have new races. So the Briarborn, the Earstrix, again, the owl people, I believe, were introduced in Strixhaven as a playable race. Geniekin. How cool is this? I mean, can you just imagine like a Geniekin sorcerer or a Geniekin thief? I mean, this is just so cool. Kitsune, Japanese cat creatures, fox creatures maybe. Komodo-kin. You can play as a Komodo dragon. Myconaut, it's a fungus person. The Runoak resemble a bipedal badger. I don't think we get a picture of those, sadly. Core monstrous races. So if you want to play as Aarakocra, Battleborn, Bugbear, Changeling, these are all the monstrous races that have been introduced in the books. Dwarf, just variants that you can use your kind of character creation on. So you can be a half drow, half eladrin, half high elf, half wood elf, hobgoblin with different traits as well. This is great if you don't own all of the books. So if you don't own the books that have the eladrin in it, but you want to play an eladrin, then you have that ability now. If you don't have the book that introduces the lizard folk, well, now you know what you need to do. And then we get our new monsters. Iron Ant, Assassin Beetle, Brain Gorger, Camozoites, Chatterbox. And these monsters are good. Dire Sturge is awesome. They're nothing mind-blowing, but it's always good to have variation. Gloom Moth, Duskbat, Magma Dragon, Infestation Golem, that sounds awesome. Mechanosphere, Sand Shark, Silhouette Golem, Titan Tree, Desert Troll, Weirwood, Verivores, and then you have monstrous encounters. So here's 100 encounters if you're using goblins. And we have encounters for the sea, encounters in the desert. And so these are kind of mini adventures that you can kind of fit in. So that is the Book of Monstrous Might. Now, what did I think of this book? This is one of the best third-party 5th edition supplements I have ever fucking read in my life. The sheer amount of choices you are now giving not only the players, but the Dungeon Master to... It's not just ramping up the game. It's making the game unpredictable for the players. You know, you come across a goblin and you're like, oh, okay, well, I know the goblin has probably 4 to 6 hit points and he's going to attack me on a roll of blah, 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 and I can hit him because he's only wearing leather armor, and leather armor gives him an armor class of blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's all good and well. For, you know, new players, obviously not, but established players, yeah, that's going to be the case. This fucking makes even a humble encounter with a single goblin unpredictable. And I like that. I think that's fantastic. I think this book is well worth any dungeon master tracking down, anyone creating homebrews, track it down. You can offer your players as well, like, oh, character creation. Oh, do I want to be a human, a halfling, a dwarf, an elf, a tiefling, a dragonborn? Fuck no, I want to be a fucking ogre wizard. I want to be a freaking lizard man thief. I want to do like, it just blows my mind how good this book is. When I got it on Thursday, I'm like, oh, I vaguely remember backing this. I don't really remember what it was about. I think I was just looking for something cool to throw my money away on. Fucking so glad I did with this thing. This is one of the best books for Dungeon Masters I have ever read in my life. And this is one that when I get around to playing Dungeons and Dragons with my gaming group, and guys, it's fucking coming. Okay, you can't play Call of Cthulhu forever, you pieces of shit. Yep, you know who I'm talking to. This is definitely going to be used. Okay, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, like, subscribe, leave a comment, hit that notification bell. But most importantly, have a fantastic weekend. Those of you who are Dungeon Masters, get this book. But most importantly, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.